On Spotlight On today, I'm welcoming John Magee, the kindness coach. He's the founder of Kindness Matters and has been teaching kindness and well-being to school children and teachers since 2010. John is the best-selling author of the book Kindness Matters and also an NLP coach and mentor to leaders in education. John's Kindness Matters challenges have been used in schools up and down the UK, and tools have reported clear benefits of this input. Let's find out a little bit more about John's work. Okay, so today on Spotlight On, I have John Magee with me, good friend of mine, and John Magee is the leading UK kindness coach for schools, I reckon, in my opinion. So, hi, John, welcome.
Very nice to be here with my lovely sister, my lovely Lynn. So, yeah, great to be here. Great to be here.
Excellent. So just tell me a little bit about your journey so far.
So far, where do you want me to start from? Do you want me to start from this year?
Let's go.
Oh, right. So Kindness Matters was formed in 2012. That was off the back of a charity and a social enterprise called Streets and a project called Mr. Consequence, which took me speaking all around the UK. Lots of synchronicities happened. Lots of great opportunities, rubbing shoulders with so-called influential people that opened up many doors for me. And from that evolved me becoming a best-selling author, which is just, I still pinch myself now, which writing a book called Kindness Matters, and then having a vision to develop the book into online courses for PSHE, for schools. And then same again, that just organically evolved, which has got to where we're at now as a national, if not international, educational online provider teaching courses which support mental health and well-being, and predominantly all based around kindness towards yourself and others in the wider community. How did I do?
Brilliant, thank you. So I just said about social media there. How has social media helped you think in this journey?
Yeah, it's been phenomenal. The same again, a lot of synchronicities happened. So how this all happened for me was my business. We lost our family business in 2008 in the credit crunch, and my marriage broke down as a father of two of my own children, plus my adopted child, or fostered child. So it hit me pretty hard. And then all these opportunities came to go into some public speaking, talking about my past experiences going up on a tough council estate, so on and so forth. And then I think it was in 2014, I was coaching someone who's a bit of a Jedi at social media. And sadly, he'd been in a business relationship with someone and he'd come off the worst end, and he'd sort of been kicked off the ladder, and he was like, didn't know where to go. And I said, come on, I'll do a bit of coaching with you, we'll get you sorted. And he was ready to go off to Ibiza and set up another business, and he was really broken-hearted about, you know, this business venture not happening. So we got it on the flip chart, did a bit of coaching with him, and he was in a very dark place. Then with a couple of coaching sessions, he was like, John, you know, you've really changed my mindset, how I'm looking at life again now. You've given me a new vision for life. How can I repay you? And it turns out this guy, I actually bumped into him a couple of weeks ago, actually, and I've not seen him since then. I actually seen him in a curry place. When was it? I think it was last week or the week before. And Jamie said, if I can ever help you with your social media. And I was like, so he started to show me on the flip chart how you can create a community on social media, but he didn't have the time to do it because he was going off to Ibiza. And then just a stroke of luck that happened, I got an email about this course called Instagram Domination, which was an Australian company, a guy called Nathan Chan. And I connected with him. It was about £1,000 to do this course. And I thought, well, I want to do it because I want to get this message out about kindness. So I did this Instagram Domination course and learned everything there is about creating a global community. And Nathan became a close friend because he loved everything to do with kindness. So I built an account from like zero, which could have been over 1 million following, but I wanted it to be organic. I wanted it to be organic. It wasn't about the numbers and look at me, I'm an influencer. It's about creating a community of like-minded people inside and outside of education, where they could talk about all things kindness. Anyway, within 6 years, flying, you know. Then I trimmed it back to maybe 20, 30K because I wanted to make that solid community. And then I started tampering with, you know, with YouTube, and because kids kept asking me to go onto YouTube. And then I did a little bit on Twitter. I'd set up the Twitter account. And unbeknown to me, not realizing that Twitter was my community. For me to get to children and to inspire communities, I didn't realize that Twitter was the platform. So I built a really healthy community on Instagram, and I've met some amazing people, and it helped the book get out there into the world. And I've received so many lovely letters, emails, presents, lots from America, Australia, lots from England. And then sadly, this year we got hacked. We lost the account after 8 years worth of work, and it was absolutely soul destroying, because the hackers started contacting people on my platform saying, you know, we can get you Bitcoin and we can get you this, and I took my face on the account, and it really broke my heart, because I kept contacting Facebook, and it took hundreds of emails. We've worked out, me and my team, it must have took a full week in hours, and they just kept saying they wasn't very kind at all. And I contacted the hackers. Then they ripped me off with £500. Luckily, I got it back off my insurance on my business Visa card, and it really disheartened me. So I'd already started putting more time into Twitter, and I created a really nice group of teachers, head teachers, you know, leaders that really were, like, to me, really empathic. They really cared about the staff and the kids. And I'm not saying for 1 minute that all head teachers or teaching staff don't care, but I will stand by your vibe attracts your tribe 100%, because I'd experienced it on Instagram. So when the pandemic kicked in, I kept being drawn. I trust the energy. I kept being drawn to Twitter. And then I just had this intuition saying to move away from Instagram, and I put it on my story one day, saying, look, I can't do everything. I get back to every DM myself, and I'm getting hundreds each day on each platform. I can't physically get back. And I was very conscious about putting boundaries in place, but I still had that thing, you know, that sort of like you feel like you're letting people down.
Yeah, because people don't use cross platforms sometimes, do they? They have their thing and they don't necessarily go to other places.
Yeah. And that's what happened. And it was like, it's like the universe answered. You know, it's a sad one to lose the account. And we've only just found out last week that it's looking like the account's finally been taken down, or the hackers have changed my name and just kept the following, because it's got a lot of followers on it, which I'm not bothered. It was not nice to be exploited with someone calling themselves John Magee, the kindness coach. And, you know,
what was lovely, were not kindness.
Yeah. And what was lovely, Lynn, was I received hundreds of emails from people all around the world saying, John, we know this isn't you. We've gone on your website. We found your contact email to contact you or your team. And we know it's not you because you never asked for anything. And I never asked for anything, because everybody that knows me, or you know me, you and I are friends, is I live to give. I don't give to get. I don't live like that. You know, what inspires me and gets me out of bed at 5 o'clock every morning, most mornings, is I live to give. You know, it really drives my behavior, and, you know, being of service to others. So it was really nice to get all them emails off people. So for me, I think it's about, you know, for anybody listening to this or watching this, is tapping into what platform's right for you, and also being very, very mindful of putting boundaries in place. Because even I felt that on Twitter again, that I was getting a bit overwhelmed, getting so many DMs, which is a lovely position to be in, people wanting to work in partnership and help one another. But we've got to understand that outside of social media, we still have a normal life, don't we? We have, you know, friends.
And it's just one person, isn't it? I'm getting to the same stage where it is just me and it is just you, and everyone wants to talk to you. They wouldn't want to talk to someone pretending to be you and on your platform either. If you employed someone, it wouldn't be quite the same, would it? So
no, and you're a lot better looking than me, Lynn. So you must get lots of
got longer hair.
I don't know. I'm doing my best. I'm getting my curls out for winter. So yeah, and you know, it's just understanding that, and it's still something that I'm working on now with social media. because I did have a virtual assistant. She was fantastic. She worked for me for 2 years. She was called Leslie. She's based in the Philippines. She was instrumental building that Instagram account. She's a lady of faith, real strong work ethic, but we had good laugh. We're very clear on how we wanted to build it and the community we wanted to build. And it is something I'm actually thinking of going forward, maybe bringing on a virtual assistant, someone that really likes our values at Kindness Matters, who gets me, because I'm 100 miles an hour, I never stop. And but also becoming part of a team that is really wants to live by that mantra, live to give. We've all got to get paid and pay the bills, especially with today's energy prices and food and everything else. But,
well, I think we got together over Twitter, effectively, didn't we? It's a good time to mention the Ed Round Tables crew.
100%, yeah. And like we said last week, didn't we? And you and I need to talk about that, because I did mention it. He was obviously, a coach, Ben, and this is nothing to do with the coaching. This was just talking as friends. He was at the end of the call. I just said, "Oh, I need to tell you something." He said, "What?" I said, "A few people have been talking about you, saying that we think we should apply for you for an award." And he was like, "What?" He's very humble, he's Ben. I said, "Yeah, Lynn brought it up first." And bless him, he was so humbled. I said, "Honestly, Ben, what you've done, Education Roundtables, how you've brought us all together, and he's created this lovely little community of like-minded individuals, hasn't he? Like when we went away the other weekend up to the lakes, it was amazing, wasn't it?"
Yeah, and absolutely. I remember sitting in that room in Birmingham, having met you all for the first time, and it was just felt like home, really. It just felt like family, and everyone had the same core values as me. And I've never walked in education, I've never walked into a room and felt that before. So it was really quite special to think everybody was on my page with things. So yeah, I'm brilliant.
It's lovely, isn't it? It is, and you're bringing it back now. I think it's that old Dr. Wayne Dyer quote, which I think is original Lao Tzu, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And it's that paradigm, isn't it? With social media, there is a dark side to everything in life, not just social media. We've been very blessed. There's been a lot of, if you will, metaphorically speaking, a lot of darkness from the pandemic, but we've had a lot of light. Look at how we've all come together as a lovely community, all supporting one another. On so many different levels, emotionally, intellectually, cognitively, and just supporting each other. It's lovely, isn't it? It really is.
And I work with people from all over the world as well, and it's just brought the world a little bit closer, because I was doing a training session earlier today, and I had one lady who, in a completely different time zone, it started at 9:30 for me. She'd got up at 4:30 in the morning in her time zone to be on the course, and I was like, oh goodness, that's a bit of extra pressure, isn't it, that she's actually got up for this? But it just brings the whole world so much closer. So I might have someone from sort of India, someone from the USA, someone from Australia. So it's very special in just in building those cultural bridges as well.
Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it? It really is. And I miss my family, my Instagram family. I think what's happened is that I have a family account which I built pretty quick. It's quite a big account, and I've dipped in now and again just to let those people that have become social media friends that I've never met in person, that I'm okay, and they don't really go on Twitter, and just said, look, I've just had to be honest with them and said, look, I live by my values, and the way I got treated by Facebook, I can't be on a platform like that. I said there was no support there. With the money they make in profits, they're treating me like that and lots of other people. It's unacceptable. So, and I did the same with Twitter. Did it? If Twitter ever treated me like that, I pulled the pin again, because I just felt absolutely exploited. So maybe in time, I forgive them. I just can't forget how I was treated.
We'll have to leave it to karma to sort that one out, I think.
Yeah. None of us escape karma, do we?
No.
Whether it's good or bad. So no, I love my Twitter family. We just keep, I give you an example. So this morning I spoke to one of my friends, Paul Garvey.
Oh yes.
And and Chris Dyson as well. Chris was on the email this morning. So my editor come on from Bloomsbury, and she's like, do you know what? You've got some really good friends on Twitter. See if they want to. We might be able to make them a little space for your books that's coming out next year. And I went, honestly. So straight away I go on to Chris Dyson. Chris has been on this morning, left me a lovely little message, lovely little thing to go on the book. And then I phoned Paul Garvey personally. And Paul's like absolutely up to ear writing sex, you know. And he's like, no, jump for you, no problem. I'll have you something over before Friday. And
brilliant.
it's like, these two are like proper like influencers, if you want to use that word. I know they're friends of ours, but you know, leaders in UK education and still making the time to be kind. And that would not have happened if it weren't for Bennett Education Roundtables. Fact.
Absolutely.
100%.
Definitely. And yeah, and also that's a big plug, isn't it, for Education Roundtables? Look it up. If you are a heart-centered head teacher, look it up and have a look and then join up, because there's
But
space.
even if you're not, yeah, not just on top of that, because obviously because I coach Ben as well, also look him up, because he's also created this these tag groups now, which they're growing phenomenally, which is teacher action groups. So what he's doing is he's separating it now, so head teachers can obviously have their education roundtables, and then there's the teacher action groups, which is really getting teachers involved to support each other. And I just know that's going to be another massive success, because as we all know, many hands make easy work, don't they?
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Coming together as a team. And
I'm hoping to do some wellbeing stuff in the future as well with roundtables, so that should be good.
Excuse me, let me just turn it light. So is that a bit better? Can we? Hey,
Oh, great. So what do you actually do in schools, John? What role do you have in schools?
Well, this is another thing, really. So I had to whittle it down again last year and this year after the pandemic, because the number one priority was, you know, because of the way it's gone with technology and children watching video, and obviously with what happened with the lockdown, how, you know, like we're on Zoom now, people have become more au fait, haven't they, with doing a video call or watching any type of video online learning. Back in 2014, when I had this vision, if you want to call it that woo-wah word, and I'd seen, because I was training staff and I was training community coaches in football clubs how to deliver the PSHE mentoring pack that I'd written. And they did really well, but it wasn't me, you know, and I've got the backstory. So somebody just put it into my psyche one day and said, why would you not film yourself? And when I first started filming myself, I did not feel comfortable. But as time went on, I started to. So I started going around to school saying, hey, there's this thing coming out called Dropbox and the iCloud. And they were all going, nah, Johnny lad, stick it on a fax. Never take off that, never take off. And I was like, no, honestly, it's coming out. No, you have to do a scheme of work. You have to write your lesson plan, all this, la. And then when the pandemic kicked in, you know, it's like we'd invested about 20,000 pounds into Kindness Matters to use a proper film company, go out, you know, do all the research. It eats up so much time and, you know, investment, and it wasn't funded. So I'd worked hard to save that up within the business. And then we had the Director of Education, Joe Siddle, in my hometown, Blackburn with Darwin, who was fully supportive with all the primaries and the high schools. There was no guarantee what schools could afford. It just felt right. So we were ready to launch in whenever it was. I think we did our first pilot 2018, 2019. And then the pandemic kicked in. We was like, what? And I was like, oh my goodness, what have I done here? I'm going to be begging on streets. And then it turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because then, you know, it started with the online training, doing the NLP as an NLP trainer, then the inquiries for doing the super learning days, which I didn't think I'd take off as big as they have done in primary schools, because I tended to deliver them with Key Stage 3. So now currently what I'm doing, I'm delivering Kindness Matters super learning days in primary and secondary. The transition, so I help with the transition as children go from 6 to 7. And now the Happy Tank, which is going to be absolutely massive next year, because the book comes out, as you know, then in March. So that's what I'm currently doing: Happy Tank training, Kindness Matters super learning days, and Happy Tank super learning days.
Brilliant. So what is the Happy Tank?
So yeah, the Happy Tank was developed during the pandemic. So I have 20. There's about 20 odd primary schools, and there's about maybe 8 high schools. These are all very close friends. So I do my best to get around them in a full academic year. Plus there was a couple of schools that commit to a full year's contract, which very intense coaching, training, so on and so forth. But when the pandemic kicked in, I couldn't go into schools because everybody was, you know, scared of transmission and disease. So because I live on the coast, I chose one of the most socially deprived communities in the country. It's on Claremont Estate. It's a friend of mine who's the executive head teacher, and he had about 17 to 20 of his most vulnerable children there. So all the schools had signed the contracts, and I explained to them, I said, look, I can do as much as I can online, plus I'm training teachers how to deliver online. And everybody was absolutely lovely. So I went into Roger Farley's school, and Roger said to me, look, John, so many kids are really struggling. And then at that time, Joe Siddle had very kindly got me on the NHS steering group. So I was a volunteer working with some absolutely very intelligent academics. And I'm thinking, have I winged this? But it was great to be.
They don't know what it's like on the ground, though, do they? So they need someone's perspective.
Oh, it was mega. And they were asking me for advice, and I was getting to say this and that. And there was like, these things were being put into, like, you know, in the Northwest, into communities. And I was like, wow. So I sat on that, learned absolutely loads of data seeing, you know, some horrific stuff I had to go through. And so when I got to Westminster Primary Academy, and Roger and I were speaking, and he was like saying, look, John, whatever you can do to support these kids, just get on with it. And he just said to me, he said, you know, John, he said, you're not going to believe what these children are worrying about. And I was like sneezing on the granny, fear of death. And he went, no, there's SATs. And I went, excuse me. He said, there's SATs. He said, we're in a pandemic. And he said, I don't want none of my kids worrying or being anxious, John. Do what you can. So we went into the classroom. Some of the children knew me from Pashies going into the school. And we just come up with an idea for like baby mindfulness, or, you know, key stage 2 mindfulness. So the first metaphor was the joyful joy. So what can we put in the joy being us? How could we make that happen? Or we came up with the happy tank, and they love the happy tank. So the 6 therapeutic exercises we came up with, or techniques, was breathing, self-reflection, kindness, affirmations, gratitude, and something I've developed through a couple of retired psychologist friends of mine, something called happy tapping, which is EFT, emotionally focused therapy. So we did it so the children would be in a sitting position, because I knew we'd be coming out of the pandemic. So as a yoga teacher, I wanted to teach them some yoga, but I knew the reality was, and I know what it's like in schools, getting children to move about, logistics. So the 2 things we came out with the children was, they could do this at home. They could be sat on their bed. They could be sat on the floor. They could be led in the bed. They could be sat in the classroom. They could be sat in an assembly. So it was very much stationary, if you will. But never in my mind would I have imagined the impact this was going to have on children's mental health and well-being, because the ideas came from the kids. I mean, I had, as a therapist and an NLP trainer, I had the scaffold to teach them the benefits of these therapeutic techniques when we apply them on a daily basis. And that was the key, to teach the children how we form habits. So it was habit forming, and it's what we coined the phrase as happy habits. Happy habits make me happy. Fill your life with happy habits. So we chose those 6 exercises. The feedback we got though was incredible. So same again, we filmed that course, and then thanks to Andrew Cowley, well-being in the what was Andrew's well-being?
Is it well-being in the classroom? Is it that?
No, that's Adrian Bethune, isn't it? Well-being in the classroom, and then what was
I could see the cover.
I can see the cover, and he'll strangle me for this. Is it not the well-being toolkit or something? Something like the well-being teacher toolkit. Yeah.
I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, forgive me. So it was Andrew and Adrian Bethune, and then they both sort of said to me, why have you not, because my agent had said there was a book in this, and he said, why have you not spoken to Bloomsbury? And I was like, who's Bloomsbury? I was dead innocent. And then next thing you know, editor's on, and she's like, this is amazing. Can we sit down and talk about something? And I was like, yeah. So then it's now become a book which is coming out next March. Sorry about the rain.
And that really fits in with all my stuff as well, because I'm really keen on early intervention. So all those mindfulness things and those strategies, I really believe they should be taught from EYFS and even earlier. And we need to be giving parents those skills in order to feed that into the children. And then, you know, if you've got it sorted by year 2, then they're habits for life, aren't they? and then that just
100%.
makes everybody a little bit less stressed overall. So you can always get back to those.
And another shout out to Education Roundtables, because, you know, thanks to speaking at Ben's conference, obviously you were there last year in Birmingham. I've been to a good handful of his schools and delivered some of my super learning days. And what's been absolutely mind blowing, and I mean mind blowing, whether it's myself, Rock Kids, Tansy TV, or whoever's been into these schools, is these head teachers. I mean, if this would have been like it is now from when I was a kid growing up, because, you know, I've had a colourful background and I've experienced a lot of trauma as a young child. And I'm very grateful for it, because I wouldn't be able to do the work I do now if it wasn't for them experiences. But not everybody who was sat in those same classrooms as me has lived to tell the story. A lot of them are dead now, sadly. And a lot of these children are either bad on substances, you know, growing up in them type of environments. Only by the grace of God have I come through the back end of it. Going into these primary school settings, predominantly, like I said, these Education Roundtable schools that I've connected with, you know, whether it's Chris at Parklands, you know, Anthony Magee up at Galley Hill, or Ali down in Dudley at Russell's Hall Primary, they've all got that same focus about the children's mental health and well-being. They've all got that same focus, you know, teaching them mindfulness-based exercises. They've got that idea of getting them out in nature, like what's your man called Matt Jessup up at Crossway. His kids are out in making mud pies, and
I'd love to work up there in a school. That'd be amazing.
it's like really, it's like, oh my goodness, if I have my time again, you know, I just want to get my children into a school like that, or for me to have that experience. So
Definitely.
to see how they're, you know, working that around their curriculum is phenomenal, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether you're 5 years old or 55 years old. We've all got to understand how to take care of our own mental health and well-being. And one hat doesn't fit all. But in all positive psychology, if you look at it, all breathing exercises, whether it's Wim Hof, box breathing, the happy tank, breath work works. You know, look at the Dalai Lama. He's like, he doesn't walk around like Kung Fu Panda for nothing. It's because he does his breathing every day. You know, these therapeutic techniques work, or getting out in nature. So when you've got head teachers and leaders in education really getting it, they know. And another one that's coming to mind, Nicola Hill in school, Meadowhead or Meadowbank in Wigan. Nicola's school is the same. She said this to me in person, you know, she said, you know, get the children right here, you know, cognitively and emotionally. You don't need to worry about the maths, their English.
It will take care of itself. And the same for the staff, isn't it? If your staff are happy, kids are happy, and the results speak for themselves because they take care of themselves, if that is right in the school.
100%, absolutely 100%. And another one who said that was Laura Robson from in Rotherham, one of our Kindness Matters schools. We did a full day's staff training there on the Happy Tank. It was just incredible, remarkable to see all them staff, 70 odd staff, modelling the Happy Tank, what they're going to teach to the children. Because my greatest challenge is time permitting, you know, and I understand that schools can't just give away full day staff insets. So I've done a good handful of these full days now, and I'm booked in for a few more next year, which is absolutely incredible to see them modelling these therapeutic exercises. And when you see these teaching staff and these adults, they just look like little kids. And there's tears sometimes because they have a shift, you know, because it brings a lot of stuff up from the inner child.
Teachers all have inner stuff that needs to come out, and I think sometimes teaching is quite traumatic in itself, isn't it? So, and actually by you giving them the strategies to teach the children, they're picking up those strategies generally, which they can use in their own lives, because actually they're very transferable skills, aren't they?
100%, 100% they are. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's a huge responsibility being a teacher, because, you know, we're at the front of the classroom or the front of the assembly hall, and these children are modelling us. You know, it's what I call monkey see, monkey do. They're like sponges, you know, so we've got to be really mindful, you know, of how we talk and how we behave, because they'll copy everything they see and everything that's going on. So, you know, teaching and these whether it's, you know, the stuff that I teach, whether it's Happy Tank or Kindness Matters or anything that's, you know, well-being defined, it's really important, because it's not just going to benefit these children in young life, it's going to take them right through to adulthood. And some people say it's going to give them life skills. I say it's going to give them skills for life.
Definitely. Oh. So have you ever been in any schools that have not had wellbeing at their centre, and you've just walked in and gone, not sure about this one?
So
I'm guessing the type of head teachers that have you in are the ones who are all up for it to start with, and the type of head teachers that won't have you in are not interested. So
yeah, well,
kind of bridging that gap, isn't it? So they getting the non-interested ones interested.
Yeah, I think that's always going to be the challenge, isn't it? Because it's a bit like you and I, Lynn. You and I are very spiritual, and we have our own spiritual practice. And some thoughts just come to mind. I read the Tao Te Ching most days, and in the Tao, one of the daily verses that Deng Ming said last week, he was saying something like, nobody should ever judge anybody else's religion or spirituality, because at the end of the day, he said the metaphor used is that we're both climbing a mountain. You're at this side and I'm at this side, but either way, we both reach the summit whenever we reach it, which is basically
God looks different from different angles. That's one I heard. It's the same God. They just look different from different perspectives.
Yeah. All roads lead to Rome. We're all heading back home, so to speak. And that makes me think. And it's the same with schools. I had to make a big decision last year, and I set an intention. I won't work with schools that just don't get our values at Kindness Matters. And that's not being me up my own backside. It's just that, first of all, I don't want to waste the head teacher of the school's time. And second of all, I don't want to waste my time. I want to work with like-minded individuals who got the same core values as we have at Kindness Matters. And then that way we can do some really good partnership work. And I know with the impact, the data we have, I know the impact it can have on the school, and not just the school, the wider community. So I'd rather work with that, because at the end of the day, how quick do the weeks fly past, the terms fly past, another academic year, we're coming to the end of another year now. So I'm not being up my own backside. I'd rather, like we said before, your vibe attracts your tribe. Just stay in that. When it feels right, it moves, doesn't it? And it just moves organically, and it feels right, and it works. It really does.
Brilliant.
So no, I've not really. I mean, back in the day, maybe in 2010, I couldn't even say then was the schools, because I like to believe in my heart of hearts that every single school in the United Kingdom does have a layer of the teachers and the children's well-being at heart, 100%. The problem we have is, and I really feel for a lot of head teachers, is, with the Department of Education, and I don't want to get all political, because I don't know it in and out, but I'm very blessed to have the people around me that do, like yourself. You got the Department of Education and some of these people who write the curriculum, and you're like, really? And, so it's on the to-do list, but sadly it gets nudged down, because then they're going for more attainment, or they're going for, attendance. And then it's getting nudged down. And then when it's getting nudged down, that's impacting the teachers. And then if the teachers are not coming in the right headspace, that's going to rub off on the kids. So it's
See, my view is like your work is strategic, whereas what they are doing in terms of accountability is firefighting, because you're trying to firefight to get the results. But if you were strategic about it, you'd get the well-being in so that the results would follow on. But it might be a 3-year process in order for that to filter through. So it's a shame that I know like perfectly wonderful teachers who have kind of, unfortunately, through leadership challenges, have not turned into wonderful leaders. So and hopefully they're getting to be more few and far between. And the government is also working really hard to try and, in some ways, they're making the right noises, and they're putting like a wellbeing charter in, and they're kind of encouraging schools to have more wellbeing at their heart. And if I think of now in comparison to a decade ago, it's big on everyone's agenda, whereas 10 years ago it was just suck it up and get on with it for everyone generally. So I'm hoping that there's going to be more of a shift, but I would like to see a little bit more change at a governmental level. But they're a bit busy at the moment, aren't they? Just inviting. So once they've sorted all that out, I'm really hopeful that in the future then we're going to see more shifts in terms of teacher wellbeing, just because of the retention factor, if nothing else. So I'm really hopeful that that's going to improve as we go along. So hopefully you'll have an awful lot more kindness schools, because everyone will be waiting for it.
Well, that's what we're going to have to think about. We're looking at stuff. I can give you, you've just brought a story to mind, which I think I'm going to share it when I'm in sets. I totally forgot about this. And I actually killed this said teacher with kindness and buried the person with a smile. I went in as a consultant. The assistant chief exec of a big Matt said, you know, can you help me out with this tough primary? So I went in, and then we did some amazing work in the first year. And I said, look, I've come across this therapeutic exercise. It's called it used to be called, what was it, emotional freedom technique, but they've changed it to emotionally focused therapy now. And it's the tapping, the happy tapping. And I've used it as a one-to-one coach, and you get massive breakthroughs. There's meridians in the body, these energy centers. Kids don't need to know this. So you just got to make it fun for kids. But you know, when obviously if you was coaching one-to-one, or you're doing staff training, you explain more to the teachers what's going on, so on and so forth. So I went into this school. Within 6 months, sat down with the head. I said, right, this is what I've come back with my research. This is what needs to happen. These kids are from tough backgrounds, serious stuff going on in the home setting. They're coming in, just kicking off in classroom, chairs going across classrooms, you know, years 4 and 5, you know, serious, like, emotional stuff going, you know, SEMH, blah, 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 blah. So I said, right, what we need to do is scrap you, Eric. Never mind you reading first thing. It's too much for them. They're worried. They're already wound up before they've come into school, because they're thinking, how am I going to sit there because I can't read because I'm thick, because I'm not as clever as some of the other kids. I said, so we need to address that. So I just said to her, I said, look, Alyssa, you need to trust me on this. So she trusts me. So we did it over just one term, straight away, behaviour insurance, bang, after 4 or 5 weeks. And I remember one of the teachers come up to me, the year 3 teacher, she said, why do we get taught this at uni? She went, I've never seen anything like it. And she had one of the toughest classes in the whole of the primary. So we kept going for it for the academic year, and we developed the happy tapping, and we just got it going every morning. The kids would do it. When there was an incident in the afternoon, the kids would come after a busy lunchtime break. You know what the energy's like when they're running around. There's a few behaviour incidents. Getting the children just to calm down again and learning the scripts, whether it's worry, anxiousness, anger, all these type of emotions that we all experience. And then what happened is, she dropped the bombshell on me, and she said to me, oh, I'm going to be leaving. I'm going to be leaving at this end of this term. I'm like, excuse me? And then my friend, who's the executive, already asked me to renew another contract. So the new head coming, and she's a great head, but she had her vision, and she just sort of scrapped it. And I was like, absolutely heartbroken.
No doubt the teachers were like panicking as well. If they knew it worked, like, oh no, it's going to go back how it was.
And that's exactly what happened. I've not been back since, so I can't say. And it might have changed a lot. I will be going back, because obviously I want to. I have mentioned in my book, and I'm going to say, look, this is where it first started. Yours were one of the first schools to do this. So this isn't a fluke that you design an online course that's now in schools all over UK. You don't get an international publishing deal with Bloomsbury that's going to go into 25 languages. And you don't get like thousands and thousands of copies of these books, you know, going into schools. And it started here when you first came in. So I'll be going back to see her, and I know her executive head as well, and I know she's going to bite our hand off, because it has to go back there, because that's where it originally started. Yeah.
Things change, don't they, with different leaders? So it can often be a challenge when I think people are very keen to just put their stamp on things, but they really need to spend some time to stop and listen and see where the land lies before changing anything in the school when they first arrive. Definitely. Well, it's
just crazy, isn't it, when you think about it? You know, even as adults, you know, if your head's not in the right space, you're just not functioning right anyway. You only think about your own behaviour, you know. Thoughts, feelings, behavior, thoughts. So it's the same thoughts. This is why affirmations work, you know. Yeah, you can have an emotion going on that's maybe, you know, unconscious, or a past program running, and but you can have an awareness around it. But a child doesn't know how to articulate that. But as adults, you know, if your head's not in the right place, you only have to think about, how does your day go? It's like you hit every red light, you stub your toe, you know, you forget your lunch. It's because your head's not in the right place. Now, if you've got the tools that work for you, they don't necessarily have to be what I've written in the happy tank. You find what's right for you. You know what I mean? Yours might be like walking the dog in the morning. I don't know. It might be reading a book before work. I don't know. But it's finding that happy habit that's that's there for you, or you've got a default. Now, what I like about practicing gratitude and affirmations, just choosing them out of the happy tank, is you can take them anywhere with you. I don't need
you
my
don't
yoga
need
mat.
resources, do you? It's completely free, and it's not even like none of your ideas are 100% original or difficult, are they? It's just that you've managed to collate them together to create a really amazing package, but actually in isolation none of them are difficult and none of them cost any money.
Do you know what's really, when I see staff, and because obviously you can imagine what I'm like when I deliver my staff insets, because we do like to have a laugh, and there's loads of innuendo bingo, which is great.
I can
And
imagine.
I mean, in one routine, I have a whip, and you want to listen. I have this whip from Ann Summers.
They love it.
You what, well, they do, and so do I. But the room just erupts. Honestly, I always ask the head teacher for consent first, but she's like, "Go for it." Well, that was the last one, or he does.
Teachers need a laugh, don't they? I mean,
yeah, you just need a good laugh and a bit of innuendo of England, a bit close to the bone. But this is the thing, he's like, when I say things like to teachers, I say, you do realise that you choose your own thoughts, and they go. And then when we're going to the psychology out, the most of the thoughts that we're thinking are just BS. In NLP, they call them programs, because we've always taken in information. So the ego, it'll just play something because it's always listening. It's listening now. So they're just like little programs looping, but it doesn't mean that they're real. The trick is we think they're real. We put meaning to them. So if we say a bit of critical self-talk, like, I don't know, let me think of something now.
I'm rubbish at maths. That's the classic.
Yeah, one. I'm rubbish at maths, so I'll never get that promotion. I'll never be a senior leader or a middle leader. You start putting meaning to it, when it doesn't mean anything. You've just heard it somewhere. But what's the beauty of affirmations? You can create your own affirmation or affirmations. You can say them, and when you're saying them, you're thinking them. And when you're thinking them, they become a self-fulfilling prophecy. And all you have to do is believe. That's all you have to do is, when you start teaching mirror work. I was teaching mirror work in Northampton last week at Julie Cassiano's in Northampton. And I got the little kids of year 4s coming up, looking into my iPhone. And I was getting the kids to look in the iPhone like a mirror and saying to themselves, every time you see yourself in a mirror, just say, I am so proud of you. I believe in you. Keep going. You're doing great. And kids are like, they look away a little bit. When you do it in a room full of training with adults, it's like they've never said this to themselves. They've never looked in the mirror and said, I'm proper proud of you. You're a great teacher. You're making a massive difference in these children's lives. And when you can get that paradigm shift as an adult, it's like, it's a pancake effect. All them limited beliefs just go, they just crumble.
Teachers don't get enough positive praise. I was saying to somebody the other day that I got more praise in the first 3 months of self-employment than I had in like a decade of teaching. So that's just where you are, the teaching side of things. And you do believe what people tell you, don't you? And you shouldn't. So
no, you shouldn't. And it starts with us, self-love. Louise Hay, one of the late greats, one of my beautiful, I learned so much, still learn from her now. Louise Hay, what's coming to mind when she says, love thy neighbour as thyself. And she says, when you take all the religious side out of that, she said, think about that quote, love thy neighbour as thyself, which means thyself comes first. We need to put ourselves first. Learning to love ourselves is the greatest love of all.
Definitely. And when you're single, and like me, like you, if you don't know that, then you can't attract the right sort of other half, can you? No,
you've got to love yourself. You've got to. I do my mirror work every single day. When I'm in front of a mirror, I always tell little John I love him. I always tell him I'm proud of him. I always say he's a good dad. I say, I always tell him to keep going. Don't have any doubt. It's all learning. Learn from every experience. And I just constantly do the work every day, at the end of the day. And I remember when I first read Mirror Work by Louise Hay, and she takes you on a 21-day thing, and she's so funny. And she says, like, when you're first saying to yourself in a mirror, oh, I really love you. You look beautiful. And she said, and you might be saying this at 5 o'clock in the morning. You hear this voice say, who are you kidding? And she smiled. Hear that voice? Hear that little critical voice go, who are you kidding? But once you get past that, and you can use humor in your daily practice, there's a massive transformation. And this is why I'm saying when you see adults have this breakthrough, in this self-loving kindness. So being kind to ourselves, because we need to go gentle with ourselves, because we're all adults and we're just all little kids, frightened kids inside. And, you know, it's that, what's that quote? It's like, if you had a little child that was scared or frightened or worried, how would you encourage that child to let them know everything's going to be okay and everything's going to work out fine? Well, that's how we need to talk to ourselves, us as adults. And when we do that, well, the transformation's phenomenal. But here's the really good thing, is then that we teach that to others. We teach that to others. And that's just, that is power. That is just positive power.
I've learned so much just in terms of resilience over my lifetime, just in terms of the experience I've had through education. So getting knocked down, picking myself up, leaving a school, not being happy, leaving another school, and it's just, I've had to, you have to pick yourself up every time. And I've had, I would say my upbringing was quite stable, and I had the skills in order to do that. But I know that there's so many adults out there that have not got those skills. So if their head teacher tells them that they've done a rubbish lesson, that's the end of the world for them, and they haven't got that resilience to pick them up. So I agree that all those things that you're teaching those pupils, that inset is as valuable for the staff as it is for those pupils. Definitely.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
Well, thank you, John. But before we go, I want to ask you about your van, because you're in your van.
I am. I'm in my beautiful van. So I'm currently, I sold up everything in August. My children have grown up. They only form when they want something. Yeah. So when the children were younger, we had VW campers, and then I travelled about back in Easter. I went down to Devon and Cornwall, and I was thinking, could I live in a Volkswagen, you know, transporter? Could I do it up? Then I looked at doing up like a Mercedes Benz. Anyway, I went with a motorhome. I got this lovely motorhome. So man in a van, little hashtag we created on thingy. There's a few other mans in a vans. And it's just great. Just going with the flow of life. And because the course, obviously a lot of schools buy it online. I don't physically have to be there. What tends to happen is schools buy the online course, they see the impact the course has, and the next stage is, how do we get him into this school? And that's always the challenge.
Where is he in the country?
Yeah, where is it? And not just that, I tend to like do a little bit online first, so then they see the impact of my work online like this. But then obviously the cherry on the cake is because I'm there in person, because it's the energy, isn't it? You know, whether it's with the kids or with the staff training, and what seems to be working well for next year. I've just took a few bookings for 2024. We're telling Paul Garvey this morning, or a couple of hours ago. I was like, wow, this is great, isn't it? Yeah. So he's what I'm doing now with a lot of my schools is when I'm going for a super learning day, he's saying, look, can we do a twilight after? I mean, I'm proper like goosed. I'm like that. But then we'll just go and have a nice meal with a head and SLT and a couple of glasses of wine or whatever. And it's just getting that day then. So then we can do some training. The kids can get the impact of the work I do. And then they've got all the online courses, which it's a dream come true, because if you would have said to me 10 years ago that we'd develop these courses online and they'd have the same impact as whether I'm there in person, I would have been like, well, okay. It's just the way it's gone with the world, with video. Everything's video now. Zoom, YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat, you know, everything's video, isn't it? So everybody's become more video literate, I'd say, haven't they? They just,
yeah, absolutely.
So
being in it's not new.
Yeah, so being in the motorhome, learning so many things, and visiting so many different communities and so many different schools, and it's a great position to be in. It really is, and I'm just loving being of service to all of our UK schools.
Wonderful. Well, it's been so nice to talk to you today, John. I know we could probably talk for hours, so we'll have to involve wine next time, I think. Definitely.
Well, before I forget, so if anybody's listening and watching this, so yeah, just visit www.kindnessmatters.co.uk. Yeah, you've got all of our social channels on there. Or if you're on Twitter, just follow kindnesscoach_. That'd be great.
I'll put all that in the information as well for you, so that's all included under the video I upload. Woo! And yeah, it's been lovely to talk to you, and you're such an inspiration to everyone you meet, John. So it's such a privilege to call you my friend.
Likewise,
Brilliant.
Lynn.
Well, I'm hoping. See, I'm getting all this information from you about how to grow your business. I'm listening, and I'm I'm going to think like maybe in a decade's time we'll have to see where it's all gone.
Yeah, well, I'm always there for you. You can pick my brains anytime.
Brilliant.
Just be careful. You don't know what you might find in here.
And on that note, I think we'll leave.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much,
Lynn.
John, and we'll catch up soon.
Thank you.